Welcome to Movie Talk, our weekly show about movies, the people who create them, and the people who star in them. I think it's still the presumption of film goers that movie gets made because a producer buys something, offers it to an actor gets hired. That doesn't happen that way anymore. I mean, even with The Raven, I mean, your involvement in pictures goes a lot deeper than most people would assume.
Yeah, here and there. I mean, sometimes you still get those traditional offers, but I think the nature of the business has changed so much that, you know, the Raven, for example, was, you know, it's a big movie, and it's kind of a dream about Edgar Allan Poe with James McTeigue, who did V for Vendetta, and terrific director. And but still, the money had to be hobbled together from foreign sources, and we shot the movie in Serbia.
Know that I will kill again, and on that new corpse, I will leave you clues that will lead to Emily. If I do not read a vivid accounting of this convergence of fact and fiction, then dear Emily will die.
Your men are right, I've killed her.
We must assume Miss Hamilton is still alive.
Why must we assume that? Because it's more convenient to do so? Why am I to blame? Where were all these officers last night? Where were you? He told you he was coming!
Mr. Poe, listen to me. This killer is methodical. He will keep her alive to keep you involved.
We had a terrific conceit, which was Edgar Allan Poe being a part of one of his own stories. So just like, you know, Amadeus is not a biopic, or, you know,
right.
Even Midnight in Paris is certainly a fantasy. Mm-hmm. You have Poe deconstructing Poe, so you have, you have Woody Allen deconstructing the writers he loves. So it's, you know, there's very interesting texture that is actually very real, but, you know, it's a fantasy.
It's a great device, but it's a period picture.
Yeah.
In order to get a period picture made, you had to go to Serbia, really. Was that because of just to keep the budget in line?
Yeah, to keep the budget in line, and also to you know, it certainly had Serbia in the winter, you know, mirroring Baltimore in the 1850s. It certainly had a goth feel to it.
Yeah.
But when we were working on that film, the script and the device was terrific. But, you know, you had Edgar Allan Poe. So you had all of his writings, and you had all of his letters, and you have this master of the language, probably with a vocabulary, you know, right up there with Henry Miller's or something.
He was a poet.
He was a great poet, yeah. and he was both highbrow and lowbrow. He was writing esoteric poetry, and he was writing pulp, Saturday evening thrillers, and he was writing about claustrophobia and murders, and he was, you know, he was a sensationalist as well. But so for that process, you know, we just, James McTeigue and I, we worked and we thought, all right, how can we make sure that his dialogue is at the level of Poe? So when he's talking about his own stuff, that we got his tone, his essence there.
What's going on?
I'm Detective Fields. Please sit down, Mr. Poe.
Yes, the infamous Detective Fields. Am I under arrest?
No, not as yet.
Then I'd rather stand. It makes it easier to leave.
And were you involved in helping to assemble these elements?
No, not on that one. That one I was lucky enough to, you know, get up on the pecking order, and I guess, you know, when CAA was helping package it,
right.
You know, I guess McTeigue wanted me, and
But you
so
have frequently acted not as an actor, but as a filmmaker / actor.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been an active proponent of your own pictures. Mm-hmm. And what prompted you to do that?
Well, I think just more as a producer, sort of to help sort of make things happen. It's, you know, it's just an instinct to try to get yourself a good part and get the story made, and then having the experience of making some films, you can see some problems down the road, or you can see where a hole in a script. You know, after a while that you've been through the editing process enough, you know, a hole is not going to fix itself. If there's a problem in that script, you can address it early or later, and it's more expensive later. A lot of times I've been lucky enough to have scripts where the director and the cast and the scripts were all at that sort of takeoff level, And everybody knows it. It's not like you want to go and
Yeah.
spend your time tweaking dialogue for no reason.
Can you give us an example of a case where things did fall into line like
Well,
that?
the last film I just did, one of the last films I just did, The Paperboy, with it was Lee Daniels, based on a Pete Dexter novel. Lee Daniels' follow-up to Precious, and it was with Nicole Kidman and Matthew McConaughey and Zac Efron and Macy Gray, and the thing was laid out, ready to go. I mean,
But-
it was hard to realize it,
Yeah.
but we just did the work as actors. But
But
there was no developing of the story. It was right there.
But the money didn't come together that easy, did it?
No.
Right. So
No.
even with that exemplary a bunch of people, it still was a hassle because it was an interesting theme. It was still
Yeah.
a hassle to get the money together.
Yeah, I mean, we had to, you have to do it at the bare bones minimum that you can make a movie for these days. And I think back in the I've been around now long enough to know the cycles here, and there was a time when The Raven and The Paperboy would have been studio films, and now they're as far outside the system as you can get. But then they get bought up by the system and by the companies, and they put their names on them afterwards. But once they're done,
Your taste in films is a bit eclectic.
yes,
I mean, as a kid, you were part of pictures that were very popular and sort of brat packy, right? And it was very nice. Were you about 16 or 17 when you got started?
yeah. I was when I started at 16, I was just it was a lot of luck, really, because I had been training in the theater at that time, and then they happened to start making movies about teenagers, and I happened to be a teenager with some experience, and then they happened to be shooting them in Chicago, so I got a couple of parts, and then I parlayed that into buying a ticket out and sleeping on my agent's couch in California, and then I got a part with Rob Reiner, got me a lead role when I was 17, and then I sort of was off to the races.
It's not easy getting rides, you know what I mean? I mean, most people are afraid to pick up hitchhikers. I mean, you never know who you might pick up. I mean, I could be some crazed slimeball. I mean, a real deranged, violent psycho, you know what I mean? I mean, a guy who would rip your heart out and eat it just for pleasure. I'm talking about a total maniac. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Look. Why aren't we moving? Don't you want to give me a ride?
I was a teenager and I did teen movies, and then I got to work with some serious filmmakers. I got to work with John Sayles, and I made Eight Men Out. And I thought, okay, gosh, I'm kind of graduating. But when I'd work with Cameron Crowe, and I got to work with Cameron Crowe and James Brooks,
Yeah.
I had a sense when I was making that film that we were doing something special, and that was much removed from the other sort of teen movies of that era, that felt like it was going to be a serious film that was going to be remembered in a certain way, like as a very heartfelt thing.
Because I figured what I really want to do with my life, what I want to do for a living, is I want to be with your daughter. I'm good at it.
You're not a permanent part of her life. You're a distraction.
I'm the distraction that's going with her to England, sir.
Now, you've been involved in writing several of the pictures that were damn
Yeah.
good. Now, Grosse Pointe, you
Yeah,
wrote,
Grosse Pointe.
co-wrote that. It's a terrific picture. Did High Fidelity, did you write that too?
Yeah, we adapted that one.
So a couple of, really, some of the most memorable pictures you were in as an actor, you
Yeah.
really fomented.
Yeah, those were, and then some other ones I would sort of maybe reshape the part with the director or the writer a little bit and add in that way on some of them. And really, it's not it may seem that way, but it isn't really about ego in any sense. It's just really trying to feel like you have enough there to do something special.
I don't want to join your goddamn union, all right? Loner, lone gunman, get it? That's the whole point. I like the lifestyle, the image. Look at the way I dress. Why don't you become a cop or something? You can have coffee in the morning with friends. Look, this is a one-on-one business. The minute you start relationships, bad things start happening. If it'll make you feel any better, I think this is my last job. So what do you say we put away our guns and forget the whole goddamn thing and have some breakfast, all right?
Go back to Stephen Frears again, is because you did a couple of pictures with him as a young guy. What was the bond you felt with him?
Well, I think he was a very impactful guy in my life. I guess Frears had heard about me from Say Anything, and Juliet Taylor had sort of had a good rep at that time, and so I sort of met him in a hotel room, and he just sort of circled me, stared at me, and I had seen Dangerous Liaisons and Prick Up Your Ears and The Hit, and I thought, this guy's a heavyweight. And, you know, I got the part, and the movie ended up being good, The Grifters, being real good, and everybody got lots of nominations and things like that. It was Harvey Weinstein's first film that he picked up.
Sir! How you doing?
Hi, can I get a Miller, please?
You got it. Out of 20. 3, 4, 5. 5 is 10, 10 is 20. Thank you. Next.
So Stephen was very, very kind of influential, and he really sort of was a person who would demand that you follow your instincts in some almost perverse way. He's a very sophisticated, big mind, and very perceptive and with people and characters. So I got to work with him once, and then when we did High Fidelity, you know, he came on board, and
Which was not a genre you'd think that he had grasped, but he really did.
yeah. But I think Stephen is he's got a big enough brain where he can kind of figure out anything.
What came first? The music or the misery? People worry about kids playing with guns or watching violent videos, that some sort of culture of violence will take them over. Nobody worries about kids listening to thousands, literally thousands of songs about heartbreak, rejection, pain, misery, and loss. Did I listen to pop music because I was miserable? Or was I miserable because I listened to pop music?
I must say, as I have read a bit about your family and heard you talk about it, I'd love to be part of a family like that. I mean, your dad sounded like a fascinating guy, right? He was a documentary maker as well, and a political activist.
Yeah, documentary filmmaker, and my mom is still a political activist, yeah.
And you're friends with these great, ferocious activists of the 60s, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Like Daniel Berrigan?
The Berrigan brothers were frequents at our house, and the Turleys, their son John Turley's a constitutional law professor now.
Yeah, that's right, Jonathan Turley.
So there were great kind of conversations around the kitchen room table, and Thanksgivings and Christmases. I was.
Did you see what fun that is to know that?
Well, I didn't know at the time you know, how special it was, but then as I got older, I realized how special it was.
The people around the table, many of them would be in jail a week later. I mean, that's good. That's a good family.
Yep. And you say, well, what? You know, and then I remember when we were kids, the FBI came to our house looking to know if we'd, you know, seen the Berrigans, and my little sister was asking, well, what do these guys want with Father Dan?
Dangerous lefty people.
Yeah.
Aha. But some of that stayed with you a bit, didn't it? I mean, you are a politically active person, which I very much respect.
Thank you. Yeah.
And a number of, but first place, stay with your family. Of course, Joan obviously became an actress.
My sister Ann is a working actress, and
right.
she's out there working around. Everybody's dabbled in it, including my father. My father acted in a lot of films before he passed away. I produced a movie that my dad wrote called The Jack Bull that we did on HBO.
Right.
It was a Western. John Badham directed it, and we're still working on something that he started that we're finishing with John Sayles, hopefully, and I think Roland Emmerich might do it on called The Source on Edgar Casey. So I'm still working, still finishing up a couple things I started with my father.
Yeah. But Chicago is still very much a part of you, isn't it? I mean, you go back there a lot. And
I spend about half my time there.
Really?
Yeah, when it gets warm and lovely, like in the spring and summer and fall, I tend to miss the city. I tend to miss like not being able to plan what you're going to do, and not having to plan what you're going to do, but just to kind of see where the night takes you or the day takes you.
Yeah.
Like I miss New York and Chicago for those things.
Now let me turn your attention to the two different theories about the uses of celebrity. So there is the Clooney school. I mean, when George Clooney says, I want to be as famous as I can because I want to use celebrity power to support the causes I believe in.
Yeah.
And he's very grounded about this. Now, you tend to be of a different school. You don't like necessarily being a celebrity. You don't advance yourself traditionally in that way. And I remember you said, you know, the trouble is, the more if an audience knows too much about a star, then what's the incentive to see his pictures? I think there should be a bit of remoteness, which I sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Is that a fair summary of your position?
Yeah, I think also, you know, I might not have found the leverage points of what I would want to exploit the celebrity for to do it a little bit more. You know, I have a varying wide range of interests politically, but, you know, George has sort of narrowed in on the Sudan and some different things that he wants to work on, and
Right.
so I admire him for doing that.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's wonderful to decide, okay, this is going to be the issue and I'm going to push it.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though knowing it's not a popular issue.
No.
Right.
But I think there's something to that. I do think that there's, it's a balance I think you have to walk, because you have to put yourself out there, and it's good to network and be social and to remind people that you're out there and, you know, you want to be a player. But I also think, you know, if I make 3 films, I'm going to be invited into people's homes 3 times a year, whether they like it or not. So maybe I should, you know.
Yeah, there should be
not
more mystery.
Well, or just, you know, not put yourself out there so much where you're, you know, you're like a guest who stayed a little too long. I would rather be invited back than be told to leave.
You've worked with a fascinating range of directors.
Yeah.
You worked with Clint Eastwood on a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Did you work with Woody Allen?
Yeah, and they're very similar, actually, those two.
Similar in what vein?
Incredibly confident men, very, very generous men, I would say. Musical. So they just sort of, they watch and listen. I think kind of purposefully, what's the word, Luddite? Or Luddite,
Yeah.
right?
Luddite, right?
Luddite, right? So they don't use the video monitors, and they don't get caught up in their screens.
That's right.
They're there with the actors watching.
Woody Allen still writes his scripts out. I always like that.
Yeah, and he doesn't even watch sometimes when he directs.
Yeah.
He watches, and he's got his headphones on, he looks away. He's listening to the rhythm. Takes a look.
Yeah. But it was nice that both of them work fast. That must be refreshing, because you've worked with some directors who do not work fast.
Yes, yeah. The idea of going onto a set and having Woody's dialogue, this beautiful scene, and then you can basically do a 5-page scene in one shot, and then you do a take, and you think, can we do another one? And Woody says, oh, this guy wants to work all day. Okay, one more. I mean, that's a good day at work, right?
That's right. Now, you have done a couple of blockbusters, so-called tentpole pictures now and then.
Yeah.
Was one called Con Air?
I mean, Con Air was an interesting film, as was 2012, because Con Air was made by Disney, and it was made by Joe Roth.
You're Cameron Poe.
That's right.
I'm Larkin.
Hello, Larkin.
I got your message.
Where are the troops?
They'll be here?
They'll be here.
Uh-huh. In a minute. Listen, Poe. Can I lower this?
Go ahead.
You gonna lower yours?
Sorry, boss, but there's only 2 men I trust. One of them's me, the other's not you.
Joe was a great person in my life, because Grosse Point Blank and High Fidelity and a bunch of the studio films I did, Joe was running Disney. And he would make the Con Airs, and he would make the tentpole movies. And then he would keep about 6 or 7 slots a year, and he would say, go make High Fidelity. Or he said to Spike Lee, go make Summer of Sam. Remember that terrific movie, Spike? One of these great movies that I thought Spike made that was, you know, about the 70s and that Zodiac era. He'd go make Grosse Point Blank. And he managed to have the high commerce for the studio, and he had the big tentpole movies, the Con Airs, and then he had 6, 7, 8 slots a year where you'd go make Rushmore, go make these films, and then you'd screen the movies for Joe, and he would say, like, you know, well, you might want to, Johnny, you might want to think, for my money, you might want to think about. I was like, Joe, it is your money, you know. I mean, he would, you know, And then he was just a terrific kind of guy and benefactor, and I hope he comes back and runs the studio again. But the business needs more guys like him.
Yeah.
To know how to do both, know
Yeah.
how to, to really meld that art and commerce.
The industry the way it is now, though, as you see it, it's hard to get relatively modestly budget pictures about an interesting subject together.
Yeah.
And so in order to do it, usually it's always outside money, isn't it? It's not studio money.
It really seems that way now. It seems like that the studios really want to make obviously the huge tentpole movies, and you got to kind of strap on the tights and do a superhero, or they want you to make it for $7, $8, $9, $10 million. But they're not really interested in those films right now.
For someone like yourself, you put your butt on the line frequently to make pictures that have an interesting political subtext, but don't necessarily, there's no guaranteed gross at the back end.
Yeah.
But you make a couple of these pictures every year.
I believe till the end of my career that it's better to risk things than not risk things. So if you have an instinct or an impulse, if you feel like there's something you want to say, I think people will respect you if you do it. Even if it's made, and people want to judge a piece of art and whether it's successful or unsuccessful immediately, like it's binary, right?
Yeah.
The opening weekends, aren't the end-all story of a piece of art, I've had plenty of movies that were, they came out and they were sort of did okay or not that great or modest successes, but then 5-10 years later, people are still talking to me about them.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
My
It's a real
pleasure.
pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a great deal.
I'm glad.